So, for my project, I chose to research a historical event that took place, which is known as Miracle on Ice, and it has had a huge impact in the sports industry. So, for my presentation, I have organized it to be history, importance, and impact of Miracle on Ice. First is the history, and I'll be asking what was Miracle on Ice, and it was the U.S. hockey team beating the Soviet Union team in the Olympics. And then, secondly, the importance. How is Miracle on Ice important in the sports industry? It is important because it's an underdog story since the Soviet Union was expected to win. And then, lastly, the impact. What was the impact of Miracle on Ice? It boosted patriotism and united the nation. And I will discuss how there were immediate impacts from Miracle on Ice as well as long-lasting impacts. And then I will give a conclusion with key takeaways. So, starting with history, what was the Miracle on Ice? The Miracle on Ice was a hockey game between the United States and the Soviet Union. It took place in 1980 in the Winter Olympics, which were held in Lake Placid, New York. The United States won 4-3, defeating the Soviet Union, and this win allowed the United States to move on to playing Finland in the championship for a gold medal. The final score of the United States and Finland game was 4-2, which made the United States gold medalists. So next is importance. What was the importance of Miracle on Ice? The most important thing is that it was an underdog story, meaning that the United States was not expected to win at all. The Soviet Union was favored to win, and this is because they had won 4 consecutive gold medals in previous Olympics, and their team consisted of highly skilled and trained athletes. On the other side, the United States team was made up of mostly college players and minor leaguers, and many people were shocked based on how far the United States had already come. They were not anticipated to win pretty much any games at all, so making it to the game before the championship and then the championship was a big deal. Continuing on with the importance of Miracle on Ice, for the overall game, the stats for both the Soviet Union team and the United States team were very impressive. Specifically, Jim Craig, who was the United States goalie at the time, he had 36 saves in the game, and his save percentage was a .923, which was higher than his career and NHL save percentages. I included this diagram to the right to show where the shots were coming from the Soviet Union team, and I think it's pretty interesting to see how many shots were blocked, and it gives you an interesting perspective on how well Jim Craig actually did. Next is the impact. What was the impact of Miracle on Ice? The main thing that people got from the defeat of the Soviet Union in the hockey game was that the United States is no longer in the shadow of the Soviet Union. And this is because we are in a time period of the Cold War, and President Reagan used the win to give hope to the country that the Soviet Union is actually beatable. This overall grew patriotism, and people started to have faith and pride in the nation, which is exactly what the U.S. needed in such an era of despair and hopelessness, since the Soviet Union seemed to have had so much power, especially over us as a country. Lastly, I have my conclusion, which I have listed some key takeaways about both the Miracle on Ice in general and then also its legacy. First, the Miracle on Ice in general, just to summarize that the U.S. hockey team pulled off a really shocking win against the Soviet Union, and then also beat Finland for a gold medal. This is really impressive, and then also considering that the team was just a roster full of college athletes and minor leaguers is really impressive. And then continuing on with the legacy of Miracle on Ice, it provided hope for the U.S. citizens for the Cold War as a original impact, and then it continues to give hope to athletes because just if you're an underdog doesn't mean that you can't win. It just takes some hard work and effort and hope. With that being said, that is my presentation on Miracle on Ice, and I hope you learned something and found some stuff very interesting like I did, because I didn't know much about hockey before this and I hadn't heard of Miracle on Ice, but it's definitely something important to our sports history.